let's talk about the worst books I read in 2025. Honestly, I almost didn't do this video because it wasn't that bad compared to other years. I've been finally learning to put down books when I'm not enjoying them. With that said, it was requested, and I definitely do have enough to still rant a bit. We're going to start with the worst book that I read in 2025, The School for Good and Evil. I don't have my copy anymore, so I don't have the exact quotes, or some details might not be as clear. Feel free to correct me in the comment section and rant also. Also, there will be spoilers. It's impossible to rant about these books without spoilers, so you're warned. Anyway, I picked this book up because it was on my shelf. It had been there for years, but originally I picked it up because magical school setting, something I enjoy reading about. I didn't know that middle grade was not my thing at the time. I do now. But I went into it because I had it. I might as well try it. And I did not understand the hype. You know, sometimes you read a book and you're like, okay, I get it. It just wasn't for me. No, I'm really confused what people got out of this book because I thought, you know, it's a book for children. That's why they're laying it on super thick. But no. Let me backtrack a little. The premise, you have these two girls that live in this village surrounded by forests, and once every 4 years, two kids get kidnapped and they end up in school for good or evil, and they will end up in fairy tales, either as heroes or the villains. So these two girls that live there are friends, or are they? And you have this oh so pretty girl that is super awful, but she's pretty. And then you have the ugly one for a reason. She has curly hair. Actually, in the movie, she's played by a black girl. So yeah, great messaging there. So they get picked up, they get kidnapped, they go to school, but they end up in the other school. So the pretty girl ends up with the villains, and the oh-so-ugly girl ends up with the school for pretty girls where she learns to be pretty. That is the magic that happens there. I thought it was laid on super thickly because it's for children. And like, eventually we're going to get the message that, oh, it's on the inside that matters. That never happens. You don't get an actual message until the last 5 pages. I'm not even kidding. And it's a thick book. So I'm not sure, like, what is wrong with the author. Actually, midway through the book, I put it down and I Googled the author because I needed to confirm what I already knew. It's a man that wrote this. I feel like if you can't write decent female characters, maybe you shouldn't. Especially writing female friendships, like complex female friendship. No. Also, clearly that man forgot halfway through the book that he was writing about children, because they're like, what, 12, 13? And some of those descriptions, okay, again, I don't have the exact quotes anymore, but like, you also get a love triangle throughout, but nothing really interesting happens until the end, where actually they are told that, you know, what's important, what will save you is the kiss from your one true love. So the director of the school kind of tries to get in a relationship with one of these 12-year-old kids. There's a bit more context than that, but still really creepy. That dude is like 200 years old or something. Like, no. And yeah, truly the message that I got was that you should kiss your best friend on the lips. That is the only true message I got from this. And people were saying it's not queer baiting. I mean, it kind of is, because they kiss on the lips and then they're like, we're best friends. Okay, you are. I've heard spoilers actually for the rest of the series, and that is just more fucked up. So yeah, not a fan. I don't understand the hype. Don't let your children read this. And yeah, no. In my best book of 2025, I included Grady Hendrix, but in my worst books of the year, I'm including 2 Grady Hendrix. So let me tell you, I almost want to apologize to everyone that kept seeing me rave about his books and you were really confused because you had read one of these 2 books. And I was saying, oh, he writes great female characters. No, he does not. It really depends on the book. Let's start with the first one, which was the Final Girl Support Group. I couldn't finish this one. I put it down very quickly, but you're following girls who were part of like mass murder events where, you know, serial killer kills a bunch of people and they're the one survivor. So they have a support group because they're all traumatized and they definitely have issues, which understandably so. I think someone told me that he wrote this one technically before some of the other ones and it was published later. I'm hoping this is true because the characters they were so badly written, especially the main female character. It was so bad. Like, you know, when you can tell that male author is trying to write like a feminist and like quirky female character, and it was so bad. I had to put it down really quickly. I shook the ending because I was curious if it was going to go exactly where I thought it was, and it did. So do not recommend this. I really hated it, but like I said, I put it down, so I can't get that salty about it. And the other one, I do still own that copy. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampire. Okay, I started with the physical copy, then I switched to the audiobook because I was determined to finish it, because it starts with him explaining the premise and how, yes, he's making fun of his mother, basically, but at the same time, it's on purpose, blah, 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 there's context. It doesn't justify any of this. Basically, this group of women start a book club. They're all also very, very silly, and they read about, you know, crime and murders like women are obsessed with, and they end up having to deal in their neighborhood with a vampire, because vampires are the first, you know, serial killers and blah, blah, blah. It's supposed to be the message, but I could not stand anyone in the book. The female character, like, I understand that you're trying to show that women are brainwashed into being oh so kind to the point where they will put themselves in danger. I get that, but it didn't justify any of this content. I didn't like the body horror. Like, there's a scene where she is in the attic hiding, and there's like pages and pages and pages of descriptions of like insects and like spider web on her, and it's supposed to be creepy, but it just was never ending. At that point, I was already listening to it as an audiobook. And then there's a scene, an essay scene, that is so graphically violent for no reason. Wait, for context, I was sitting, listening to that graphic scene on the audiobook while painting this paint by number of my cat. And the absurdity of it all, I was like, I cannot stomach this anymore. I had to put it down and just stop, because I wanted to get to the end, because I had liked so many of his other books, and I thought, well, The Final Girl Support Group was just a fluke. It was an older book. It wasn't a fluke. So I don't know how I feel about him anymore, because he has written like 2 or 3 books that I've enjoyed, and then 2 that were still good, and then you have these 2 that I can't stand. So yeah, if you saw me recommend his other books, but you had read this one or the other one and you hated them, I understand the confusion now. So this is going bye-bye. I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't even care if it's to advance the plot of anything. A graphic essay scene is basically never needed. It's never needed. There are plenty of books that talk about this in like social commentary, or like it's useful as a context, but it's not even described because it's not needed. I don't need to read this. So yeah, I'm just over it at this point. So this is going in the unhaul shelf there, where it deserves to be. The next one is mostly a huge disappointment, and it was The Late Night Witches, which I have a copy somewhere, and the book is so forgettable that I don't even know where the copy went. So I had really enjoyed 2 of the books by the author. I'll put them on the screen. Cozy Murder Mystery, Small Town Witchy, like, they were nice. I liked them. I was looking forward to her being able to publish something else, and I kind of hated it, honestly. Listen, main character, she needs to leave her husband. She really does. He basically abandoned them, but she just hasn't really realized yet. But she's trying to find herself back. Like, she's completely lost herself. She's taking her 2 kids. She's in this small town, and there's a new cute neighbor, and she has a sister who's definitely more witchy than her. But there's is it vampire again? That arrive into town that force her to, you know, find herself, use her power, and save everyone. But she can't. She just, you know, can't do it. She can't find herself for 95% of the book. Listen, I understand it's not easy. You gotta, you know, again, find yourself. Believe in yourself, in your powers. That's fine, but 95% of the book, I found myself so frustrated with her. Like, I finished it out of spite because I just wanted to see if she would eventually. But yeah, 95% of the book, I can't recommend it. Do try her other books though, but this was a huge disappointment. This is probably going to be my most controversial one, The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. Listen, there are some fantasy books that are very like bro humor that I can't stand. I can't stand it. They always like are kind of juvenile humor that verge on like sexist at times. I just can't get behind it. I couldn't finish it. I tried it twice. It's just a group of people that are going to try to do something eventually, but at 50% they were still walking towards it. That is the exact premise. It was the same thing with Kings of the Wild. Same thing, juvenile humor. And an example that I keep mentioning is this one dude that has magical power but needs to write to use it. He uses a toenail and excrements to write the spell. So that's the kind of humor it is, which it might be for you. It's just not for me. Yeah. If nothing happens and I don't care for the world building, the humor, and the way female we talked about, I can't do it. So yeah, wasn't for me, but it's popular. So whatever. The only other one I own a copy of is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. Listen, I love her, but her books are hit and miss. And my issue with this one is that I went into it wanting a romance. That's why I read Emily Henry. I don't read a ton of romance, but I will read hers. And I didn't care for it. This felt like The Seventh Husband of Evelyn Hugo 2.0. And there was a few spicy scenes. That's basically what this was about. It was two stories and they felt very disconnected. Like you would follow the other story. This woman, let me give you the context. This, old Hollywood woman who disappeared, the main female character and this other man that write biographies, they get a chance to interview her and she will choose which one of them will be able to write her story and why she disappeared and all of that. That's fine in theory, but we spent so much time following this story that the romance just didn't have time to develop well, in my opinion. And when it would happen, I didn't really care. And it just would flip-flop between those two stories. And the story wasn't bad. It's just that it's not what I wanted from it. It's one of her biggest ones, too. I just really didn't care for it. So it's not like the worst book I've read this year, but it's definitely one of my biggest disappointments. So I decided to combine them in this video because I didn't hate that many. Another huge disappointment for me this year was When the Moon Hits Your Eye, which I love John Scalzi, okay? He's funny. I like his books. But this one felt like a fun idea, but the doing it wasn't actually that worth it. The moon turns into cheese. So, okay, that's an interesting thought experiment, but reading 300 pages was 200 too many. I just lost interest very quickly, and I continued because I got the advanced reader copy and I really liked his other books, but no, it was not worth it. The next one I shouldn't have read, but I did. The Night We Lost Him. I had really hated her other book, okay? I'm going to be honest. It was super popular. It didn't win also the Goodreads Choice Award in the mystery trilogy category that year. It was popular because it was a book club book and people had read it, so they voted for it. You cannot convince me otherwise because it was terrible. But I got the audiobook of the other one and I was like, how bad can it be? The answer is bad. I really struggle to even remember the plot of this one. Her writing is not good. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care to know where the story was going. Again, I just finished it because I had the audiobook and I wasn't listening to anything else at the time. So just don't. The Pumpkin Spice Cafe is probably on a lot of people's list of the worst books they've ever read. And I understand, but I went into it with super low expectations because I saw people either giving it 5-star loving it or people bashing it. And I knew it was exactly what I expected. It wasn't well written, small town, the classic, oh, she goes back to the small town, she opens up her store and there's this hot, sexy guy. So there's a few spicy scenes that are connected together by bad story, and it's just, I can't say it was worse than I expected because it's exactly yeah, that's what I thought it was. I tried it because I was curious and I had the audiobook. There's no way I was finishing it with the physical book, and yeah, it was terrible. Yes, it was, but I knew that, so it's on me. So these were the worst books that I read in 2025. As you can see, not that many. I feel like 2025 was not my worst year reading wise. If you want to hear me be extra salty about some books, I'll put some of the past ones on the screen. I also have actually my best ones of 2025 if you want actual recommendations. I will see you next year, hopefully with better worse books.